Assalamu alaikum, family. You're tuned into the Sajdah channel. This is part 4 of our strategic planning for separation, where we're talking about techniques that were used and weaponized against Black settlements and Black communities. And we're going to be talking about property tax assessments, or property assessments, I should say, that have in some cases been weaponized. So be a friend, tell a friend, and we'll be back after a few short commercials and a beautiful prayer.
O Allah, guide me among those whom Thou hast guided aright, and preserve me among those whom Thou hast preserved, and befriend me among those whom Thou hast befriended. Bless me in whatsoever Thou dost grant me, and deliver me from the evil of what Thou hast judged. Surely Thou judgest, and none can judge against Thee, and he whom Thou befriendest is not disgraced. Blessed art Thou, O Lord, and exalted be Thee above what they set up besides Thee. I bear witness, nothing deserves to be served besides Thee, and I bear witness that Muhammad is Thy servant and apostle. Amen.
right. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. We are here. We are live. Let me get my notes together here. This is day 4. I was thinking about the money psychology series is week 4, but it's day 4, also number 4 of our strategic planning for separation. I'm your host, Sajdah Wendy Muhammad, and today we're going to be talking about property assessments. All right. We got it together here. And before we do that, though, are y'all registered for Sunday for week 4 of our money psychology series? We're just going to do a mindset wrap up Sunday, 7 p.m. Central Time. Just use the QR code right there and get registered, get set up. And how many of you all are Muslim business owners? If you're not a Muslim, are you a conscious-minded business owner? I'm saying all that because we want to weed out the ratchetism. If you want a predator, don't come. But if you're a conscious business owner, if you're a conscious entrepreneur, if you're a Muslim business owner, we want you to come out Thursday on June 26th, 6 to 8 p.m. to the Elijah Muhammad House Museum. We're going to be networking, okay, and putting these like-minded people together. We're going to be networking. We're going to help you work on, we'll do that before you get there. Work on your elevator pitch so you know how to pitch your business, so you know how to introduce yourself to business, so you can get more loyal customers. You can become someone else's customers. We want to do what we can and do our part to circulate or extend the circulation of this dollar and ultimately put together a chamber. All right. So that is important. Listen, before I start, let me say this. These shows, this work that I do, it's not for everybody. So you're not going to be able to wait until 100 of y'all get together and decide, ooh, we about to go check out and see what Sajda's doing. I put stuff together that's for soldiers. If you ain't a soldier, this channel running behind me, copying, that ain't going to be for you. Because this is for people who want to make a difference, for builders, for do-for-selfers, for entrepreneurs. If that's not what you are, then just chill out and wait, and we'll offer you a job at some point. Ain't nothing wrong with that. You know, there's things that people do. You know, it's like, I laugh all the time because I have an honorary doctorate in that came from hospitals and a medical community, and I don't like smells. I don't like smells. So if they all want to get together and meet at a certain part of the hospital, I'd be like, see y'all when y'all get back to the break room. I just don't. I just don't. So you may not like this, and it's okay. It is quite all right. Okay. Don't stress. But this is tough stuff, and we can talk about separation as a theory, but there are those of us who are ready to tactically plan, strategically plan, and really sit down and dig in. And some of these subjects I've been studying for years. I have a project going on right now that is diving into some real serious historical developments, right, around the empire that was built by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and how it was deconstructed, period, point blank. All right, let me just start before I get going here. You got your tea, got your coffee? Builders, entrepreneurs, let's go. More than 1,200, and this first part you're going to hear me say, I say this every day, but I have to set the precedence for our conversation. Because more than 1,200 historically Black towns were founded during the years of Reconstruction and at the end of the 19th century, continuing into the early 20th century. But several were established long before the Civil War. Historic Black towns, both incorporated and unincorporated, can be understood as settlements that are predominantly inhabited and governed by Black people and were established to create safe and autonomous communities amidst widespread racial discrimination and violence. From coast to coast and in every pocket of the U.S., Black entrepreneurs, farmers, and professionals broke ground in new locations throughout Florida, California, Oklahoma, Texas, and beyond. In places like Oklahoma, for example, there was more than just Black Wall Street. There were over 50 Black towns in the state of Oklahoma alone. Black families and individuals thrived economically and politically without the violent oversight and control of white supremacist culture and politics. Now, the dramatic loss of Black towns and settlements was far from accidental and has severely impacted our ability to transfer generational wealth. Okay, there were a host of systemic challenges and mechanisms of disposition that were enabled or that were weaponized against us and enabled the destruction of these spaces. Okay, so I want to begin. We're going to talk about these tactics. Let me give you some stats. By 1910, Black Americans owned 15 million acres of farmland. By 1997, we only owned 2.3 million acres. Over 90% of that land loss is tied to legal loopholes and not the market. Legal loopholes, not the market. Okay, which means that we got to do some studying. We don't know what we're doing. So we don't want to go out here and get these hundreds of acres or even find ourselves thrust into being leaders in communities where we're governing ourselves and not understand some of the potentials for these loopholes that may be weaponized against us, not only because of racism, but just because of competition. We already, you know how Satan get down. There's haters everywhere. You have people who are competing against you. You have people that are trying to cut you out of stuff. You have people in your own family who are praying for your downfall because they want to be the number one. They want to be the best. So this happens when I say family. It could be your Black family, your religious family, your spiritual family, your sorority family. It could be your biological family. We have to learn how to strategize against these things. Couple of things. One of the biggest strategies against that is going to be the self-improvement process given to us by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Get in those study guides and get it together. But I have one of my mentors, Dr. George Frazier, was talking Sunday, and he said he was actually speaking about relationships. Because I'm always teasing him like, Dr. Frazier, what we doing? You supposed to be matchmaking with me here, right? Between him and the minister, those are my two older mentors, right? I call them like fathers, if you will, spiritual fathers. And the minister, of course, you know, I'm a followers of his, follow him to the end, one of his soldiers. I can't even say enough about that. I'm about to get emotional just thinking about it. But I'm like, wait, what y'all doing? The minister say, it's coming, sis. You're going to have a lot of men. I'm like, we're just looking for one. And then George said, well, if you can't build with them, don't chill with them. And I said, ooh, Dr. Frazier, those are bars. Because that's true even in friendships. I don't have any friends that I chill with or kick it with that I can't build with. So if you got people in your life that are around you, and they're competitive, they're haters, they don't like you, they always trying to one-up you. They got all these insecurities and all this stuff that they got going on. Don't make their trauma your spiritual business. If you can't build with them, don't chill with them. They may just need to be an associate. They're not somebody that you're going to kick it with. If you can't build with them, don't chill with them. That's Dr. George Frazier. Anyway, today we're going to discuss how property assessments, rampant tax assessment disparities for Black households have led to a significant overvaluation of properties or an imposition of a Black tax in gentrifying communities, causing families to pay higher tax bills and experience increased financial strain or even land loss and displacement. I just was thinking about talking about those two. I said on the call this week, I said, I'm one of the most blessed persons in the world. Did you hear what I just said? Spiritual fathers, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and Dr. George Frazier. Listen, if I'm not successful, it's something wrong with me. Anyway, let's begin this discussion, all right, with talking about the Muslim program given to us by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Point number 4 of what the Muslims want says this. And let me go back to this let me say this. When I first became a member of the Nation of Islam in 1990, I remember reading this, and the business person in me, my wheels started turning. Okay, this is how we got to do this. This is how we got to do that. I started thinking about it tactically, but I noticed that a lot of us were just talking about it in theory. But I remember I found a notebook that I had from, I think it was the year 2000, and it said separation. And I had all of this stuff, some of these things that we're talking about in the show, where I started laying out like what we needed to do. So I want to talk about point number 4. I'm just going to read it, okay, because it's the basis of what we're talking about here today and why we're even, or at least why I'm talking about this subject. And this is for you. It's not just for Muslims. I don't want people who say, well, I'm not a Muslim. I don't want to live in a separate territory to go, I don't want to talk about this. Let me tell you something. Stop before you scroll past or get off this. If you live in a town, whether it's a suburb of Boston, Chicago, LA, or Cleveland, wherever it is, and all of a sudden, it used to be a town that was all white. Now all of a sudden it's all black. Guess what? You better learn how to govern yourself. And you better find some principles and a mission that you got to mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically tie yourself to, or you're going to be out strategized. You got to study. If you are one of these people that says, you know what, I'm just going to build my own. I'm going to build a separate territory. I'm about to go buy, 500 acres of land and start a town. Same thing for you. You got to study. If you're one of these people who say, you know what, I ain't going nowhere. I'm staying right here. I ain't separating. Well, guess what? It is our job. The more knowledge we get, the more quote unquote civilized we become. We must teach, train, and help educate and civilize other people. So you still need it. This is a universal message that is meant for everyone. Okay. If you say, well, I'm not black, I'm Asian, I'm white, same thing for you. Teach and train. Let's build a civilized society in a community and territory wherever we are, so that we can stop having unsafe environments where people are preying on other folks. And we got to stop having all these lists of people that are missing because somebody done stole them. Sex trafficking, human trafficking. Some of us, our children, want to be famous so bad they're getting themselves caught up with weird people and can't get out of it. All of this is part of why we want to separate, but also why we should be building civilized societies right here where we are. All right, so here's point number 4. We want our people in America whose parents or grandparents were descendants from slaves, this is from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, to be allowed to establish a separate territory or state of their own, either on this continent or elsewhere. We believe that our former slave masters are obligated to provide such land and that the area must be fertile and minerally rich. We believe that our former slave masters are obligated to maintain and supply our needs in this separate territory for the next 20 to 25 years until we are able to produce and supply our own needs. This is why we have to keep the conversation of reparations on the table. I heard that Mayor Brandon here in Chicago is putting together a reparations committee. I sent him my resume because I want to be on that committee. I believe I can add value, not only as a mission-driven, nation-driven person and follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but also as a developer, builder, and a tactical person. Here we go. Then, in a much talked about interview, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan appeared April 13th, 1997 on NBC Television's Meet the Press. He was interviewed by Tim Russert and David Broder. This subject of separation came up. And here is some of the dialogue. In preparing for this interview, Mr. Russert said, I read the literature that your organization puts out and publishes, and I'd like to go through it to find out what you believe and how it affects America. Let me just stop right there. When we start talking about governing ourselves and creating a civilized society, there's certain people that get threatened. My opinion is this: don't get threatened unless you're already committing some type of sin against us. If you're satanic and you have us in unsafe environments, then you should be worried about how it's going to affect you. But if you on the up and up and you see these people trying to clean up their lives and trying to get themselves together and learn how to govern themselves and trying to get rid of all this old baggage and stuff like that, trying to heal, then you should be applauding it. This is just my side. Anyway, so Mr. Russert, then he said, this is your newspaper, The Final Call. He held up The Final Call newspaper, which comes out once a month. And on the back page, and then the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan interrupted and he said once a week. And Tim said, okay, once a week on the back page is the Muslim program, what the Muslims want. And if I can go through a few of these, let me put one on the screen and get your reaction. The first is in terms of territory. And you'll see, since we cannot get along, quote, this is a quote from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, since we cannot get along with them in peace and equality, we believe our contributions to this land and the suffering forced upon us by white America justifies our demand for complete separation in a state or territory of our own, close quote. Is that your view in 1997, a separate state for Black Americans? And our beautiful, beloved, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, first, the program starts with number one. That, referring to what he showed on the screen, is number four. The first part of that program is that we want freedom, a full and complete freedom. The second is we want justice. We want equal justice under the law. And we want justice applied equally to all, regardless of race or class or color. And the third is that we want equality. We want equal membership in society with the best in civilized society. If we can get that within the political, economic, social system of America, there's no need for point number four. But if we cannot get along in peace after giving America 400 years of service and sweat and labor, then of course separation would be the solution to our race problem. Now, I just talked earlier how what's beginning to happen now is that separation is a multifactorial situation, right? Because you have some people who are already in separate territories. They live in a town where they're now governing themselves. We have some people who are striking out and buying land and building their own cities. That's a separate territory. Then we have some people that are saying, you know what? There's a bunch of wasted cities around here. I'm going to go and take over those. We've talked about some of the things that you need to do in terms of your due diligence before you go and take over these wasted, abandoned towns. There's hundreds of them throughout the United States. All right. Some of us may separate because we're pioneers and that's just how it may go. But it's become a multifactorial approach. Okay. But during Reconstruction, we had these Black settlements. We had over 1,200 of them. And not only was there legal terrorism that impacted those communities, but there was physical terrorism, violence, towns burned down. All of this has impacted how we see this subject. And sometimes we see something on paper or we see it in a movie and we hear about Black Wall Street. But then next thing you know, we find ourselves on the board of the city council of our little town or village or suburb. And then we up here acting crazy and throwing drinks and treating it like it's a reality show. Make it make sense, because you can't do both. Okay. If you are somebody that wants to be in one of these positions because you just want to be famous, you want to be a reality show leader, you just want the accolades, this ain't for you, because this is tough work. is serious work. You got to deal with scrutiny. You got to deal with every aspect of your life being under attack. And I say to every one of us who are believers, believers in God, believers in Allah, believers in Jehovah, believers in Jesus, believers in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, believers in whatever you say you believe in, if you have not had every aspect of your life attacked, then you ain't ready for leadership. You might be ready to be an influencer online. You want the numbers. But you can't call yourself a soldier. See, this kind of work requires you to have a soldier's mind, a soldier's background. See, I was bred to be a soldier. Some of us aren't blessed to be bred that way. I come from the fight and the tactical side. I was bred to be a soldier. I have lived my entire life with every aspect of my life under attack at one point or another, sometimes all together. I've lost people. I've lost friends. I've had family members that go up and down. Some people say, oh man, I support you, but wow, this is a lot. This is just the life I was given, to make a difference and to be a soldier. This is what I was born into this world to do. And so I've learned to embrace that and protect that. And so if you want to follow this whole thing that we got going on over here, I don't even like the word follow, but just be a partner. Let's be a part. You got to be a builder. We can't chill if we can't build together. All right, let's keep going. That's my soapbox. During Reconstruction, Southern states often allowed landowners to self-assess property values. This enabled wealthy landowners to vastly underreport the value of their holdings, while Black landowners were disproportionately overassessed, increasing their tax burden and risk of forfeiture. Okay. Taxation was weaponized not just economically, but politically. Poll and capitation taxes were also used to suppress Black enfranchisement and property stability. So there was a scholar, Andrew Carl, and others who traced how discriminatory tax assessments were part of a broader Black tax, continuing well beyond Reconstruction into Jim Crow and up to modern eras today, to the modern era today. So go look up Andrew Carl, Kahrl, and the Black tax, and study his reporting on this whole concept. I took a deep dive into that this weekend. And let me also say this before we go into exactly what are property assessments and all of that. Okay. I want you guys to learn how to reprogram your algorithms on social media and YouTube. A lot of you all report like, I just don't get on the internet because there's so much ratchetness on there, and there's so this and there's so much that. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad built the Nation of Islam using modern technology. Modern technology at that time was newspapers, the printing press, and the radio. The radio was like the internet. And so every week in the Muhammad Speaks newspaper, there was a list published, and news stations were added, but there was a list published where people could go and look and see where they could hear about the life-giving teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They could hear lectures. At a certain point, the minister took over the radio program, and you literally could listen to that. And that was something that was used as a modern technique to help, if you will, propagate the faith and help to raise awareness. All right. The internet, social media, AI is one of those techniques, but you got to learn how to use it. So let's say I get on here and I say, I'm going to find out what's going on with the Diddy trial, because I like following cases. So I go in, look at the Diddy trials, get my updates. But then I have to reprogram my algorithm, because now that I've spent, maybe 20 minutes or so looking and getting updates on the trial, then the algorithm will begin to send me things that are connected to that. So now I have to reprogram my algorithm. I do so much studying about self-improvement and business development, and I've been digging deep into these Black settlements and building these cities and all of this kind of stuff. So the algorithm gives me that. So if you like listening to music, you may say, hey, I like looking at the boots on the ground video. There's nothing wrong with that if that's what you like, but you shouldn't be mindless scrolling through that and then just picking up everything else. Once you finish checking out the line dance videos or the latest music videos, I like looking at music competitions. I love The Voice. I love America's Got Talent. And so I may say, oh, I missed America's Got Talent. Let me see who's on. But then you need to reprogram your algorithm. What else are you looking at? What else did you go to? So before you click off, spend some time looking at something that you would like to pop up on your feed. And then that way you reprogram the algorithm, so the next time you come back to social media, it's giving you what you want and not what they want you to be looking at. All right. So now this is how you can use YouTube and social media and TikTok as a university. Straight up. If you want to learn about horses, cows, if you want to learn about agriculture, every social media outlet can take you on a deep dive into that subject area. If you say, I really want to learn about independent farmers, then program your TikTok, program your Instagram, program your Facebook, program your YouTube by going on there, watching and searching for those things and following those people. And then that is what will start to come up on your feed. Okay. Now, that's how you use AI and programming to your advantage. It's just like your mind, right? Whatever you're putting in it is what it's going to give you. All right. What are property tax assessments? Property tax assessments are evaluations conducted by local government authorities to determine the value of a property for the purpose of calculating property taxes. Property taxes, they fund public services like schools, roads, police, and fire departments. The amount you pay depends on the assessed value of your property. This is an important relationship for us to understand when we are looking into governing ourselves. The relationship between the assessments, the dollars that come in, the budget for the city, budget, how it's being, okay? What is an assessed value? This is the value assigned by a property to a property by a tax assessor. Now, what is this based on? All right, let me give you a basis there so all can see it. Here we go. Got it. It's based on market value. If you're a realtor, you should know this, but even if you don't, if you're not a realtor, there's nothing nowadays that anybody that has a deep specialty in that you can't go and study. So how do they come up with the assessed value? They're supposed to use market value, meaning what the property would sell for, replacement cost, comparable property sales in the area, and income, and that's for income producing properties. And there's an algorithm, if you will, a statistical program that they're supposed to use to calculate that. And you can look up, go to your city, your village, your county, whoever does your assessments, and see what they base it on and how they do it and study it. The assessment process goes like this. The local assessor reviews the property characteristics, like the size, the location, different improvements that have been put in. Sometimes they use a software. Sometimes it's like site visits and data visits, sales data, And they usually assess the properties annually or every few years, depending on the local rules for your municipality. So some municipalities come out every 5 years. So you'll see a property with a tax assessment that's really low, but there's been a lot of improvements on it. Some of it is just subjective, but that is what we have to study and pay attention to. The rate that they determine is called the mill rate. Okay. And so once they assess the value, the local government then applies the tax rate or the mill rate to determine how much the property is owed. So let's say your mill rate is 1.5%. And if they assess your home at $200,000, then you'd owe $3,000 annually. Okay. That's just a simple calculation, or a simple Cliff Notes version of that. Your property owners usually receive a notice in the mail with the new assessed value. If you believe the value is too high, your municipality should give you an opportunity to appeal it, and you need to read the notice so you know how to appeal it. Now, the tax assessment is not the same as the market value. Not often, most time it's not the same. All right. The market value is what somebody will pay for your property, what it's worth in the market. Okay. The assessed value is what your municipality has given it. Sometimes they'll say, well, it's 80% of the market value or whatever. Some of them don't tie it to market value at all. That can be kind of dangerous, right? Now, property tax assessments were used as a strategic tool during and after Reconstruction to dispossess Black Americans of land and wealth, particularly in the South, where local governments and white elites sought to reassert racial control following the end of slavery. All right. Now, they used several tactics, which we're about to talk about. One particular tactic was inflated property assessments. And then how they did this was the local tax assessors, who many times were white and hostile to Black land ownership, would intentionally overvalue the land held by Black individuals or communities. When they did this, this is what happened. People got higher tax bills than what white landowners with similar properties received. It increased the risk of tax delinquency, especially among newly freed Black people who were still establishing their financial footing. And it forced land sales at public auctions when taxes could not be paid. So literally, they went around and found a way to assess these properties so that the newly freed slaves could not afford to pay the taxes. And then they came back and took the land and said, well, you can't afford it, and then didn't work with them. And I think during that period is when appeal processes and things like that came up. In some cases, the municipality may have priced or taxed the Black family out of the land ownership, and the Black family continued to live there, maybe even for a couple of generations, not knowing that they didn't even own it anymore. Okay, that's why a lot of us have all these stories of these legal loopholes that our family went through, because we all can say we had land, we had houses, we had property down south, and then something happened to it. Okay. Across the South, Black land ownership rose in the decades after emancipation, but it began to plummet by the early 20th century. And it's because of these types of tactics. Taxation, all right. It played a role in the decrease of land ownership among Black people in many rural areas. White officials reassessed Black-owned lands at inflated rates, creating a high tax burden. And so many of the freedmen and women and their descendants lacked access to credit and legal protection and lost their land to tax sales. This caused what is known as disenfranchisement. Disenfranchisement. It means that once Black people lost the vote, they had no influence over tax policies or assessments. You see that relationship there? So when you're building your new town, when you find yourself governing yourself, in the village where you live, in the community where you live. Understand the connection between political power and tax policies and assessments. So it created legal manipulations where courts typically upheld tax seizures even when assessments were clearly biased. Okay. Another tool they used, I call it collusion tool. So you may have had the local tax assessor, the sheriff, the white land speculators, and these developers who work together to manipulate, seize, and redistribute the land. So as we find ourselves governing ourselves, whether it be in these newly cities, the communities, suburban towns, villages, we must study how property tax assessments will impact our current population. All right. Property tax assessments have been historically weaponized against us in our communities. Now, let's learn about how America's property tax system discriminates by race. I have a video to show you all here. It's just a few minutes, but I want us to study this. And we should all be studying all of this, looking at these videos, checking this stuff out, reprogram your algorithm. This should become YouTube University. It should be Facebook University. It should be Instagram University. It should be TikTok University. Yes, there's entertainment, but reprogram that algorithm. Okay. Let me add this video here, and let's take a look at, this is from the Roland Martin show, where he did a study called Segregation Tax Undervalues Black Homes. All right. Undervalues Black homes by nearly $50,000. And it's a weaponization tool we should be aware of. So check this out. Give me a thumbs up in the chat if you can see. And
there's been a segregation tax. Black folks know this very well, of course, and that's what social scientists call the undervaluation of homes in Black neighborhoods. Now, on average, the same home in a white neighborhood is worth nearly $50,000 more than the same home in a Black neighborhood. Overall, that's $156 billion in lost value for Black homeowners. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. We transition into the holiday season. This is the time when we start thinking about giving and sharing. Sometimes the best gift to give somebody is an opportunity that could potentially change their lives economically. That's why our friends at Transatlantic Real Estate have created an investment opportunity for the everyday investor. It involves legal marijuana and crowdfunding. No, we ain't trying to give you weed. We're trying to get you to make money off of weed. Now, we all know that legal marijuana has created one of the fastest growing industries in America, a multi-billion-dollar industry. We also know that crowdfunding makes it easy to be an early investor to get in on an opportunity. It really is a no-brainer, but it gets even better. Transatlantic Real Estate is different. They have a business model that is simple to understand. They buy land that supports marijuana grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. Now, did you hear that? You are investing in the landlord of a licensed marijuana farm in a high-growth market. And for a limited time, you can invest as little as $300 up to $10,000 before the company goes public. Now, here's some more good news. They recently extended the offer, which means you still have time if you take action now. Now, keep in mind, you must complete and confirm your application to participate. So be sure to complete the process. Now look, don't spend all your money over the holidays and end up with empty pockets and buying stuff that you're not going to be able to use a year from now. Instead, get a return on your investment. You can also consider making an investment for someone special. How's that for a holiday gift? Yes, you're welcome. To get started, go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org to get in the game right now. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video. That segregation tax has a big effect on what happens in those Black neighborhoods. Joining us right now is the author of a new report detailing the damage from this. He's from the Brookings Institution's think tank. Joining us right now is Dr. Andre Perry, back to Roland Martin Unfiltered. Now, Andre, of course, we've heard about this in so many other areas, but to see these numbers and see what that means, is stunning for some people, because you talk about wealth. Again, Americans have been able to accrue wealth, home ownership, taking that money, reinvesting it, passing that money down through inheritance to their children. And so Black folks have been getting the short end of the stick from the moment we were able to buy home.
Yeah, and when something goes wrong in the Black community, people like to say it all starts at home. And what they are trying to say is that there's a cultural pathology in the Black community. But the reality is that it does all start at home, but it's about the devaluation of Black property. That $156 billion should be going into schools and other municipal services. It could pay for tuition. It would actually pay for more than 8 million college degrees at the public rate. It would fund more than 4 million businesses, given the rate that most Black businesses start. It would have funded the entire Katrina recovery efforts. The $156 billion changes lives. It's the money that's necessary to uplift our communities and individuals. And so it's an enormous number, and I'm glad that we have put the data out there, because some people look at it and say and get disheartened. I look at the numbers and say, hey, now we can name our price. Mm-hmm. You can go to brookings.edu, look up your metro area, and you can see the price difference. And because what's also encouraging, we know our homes are actually worth more than what they are priced, meaning that we should be investing more in our community. We should start businesses in our communities. We should take risk and improve our homes. The price is inaccurate. And then this comes after very rigorous data. If you look at the report, we control for everything from crime, housing structures. We control for walkability, transportation, all the major neighborhood and housing structure variables. And what we find is that the devaluation, and it's an enormous number.
And again, we're talking real money. We're talking, but people have to understand, again, by lower valuation, when you turn around and sell it, that means somebody's actually buying the house cheaper than it really should be. And then that keeps you from being able to take that additional money and then save it, invest it, or buy another home that has a higher value. So again, imagine this happening 2 or 3 times, then over generationally as well. That means that Black folks who've been owning homes from the 20s, the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, now all of a sudden in the 21st century, we've been.
You know, I also want to emphasize that we've been criticizing Black folk for not striving, not doing enough. But this shows that Black Americans are actually striving for the American dream, that we're actually doing everything we're told, but we're taxed for doing so. And it's debilitating our communities. I mean, these are current numbers. This is not numbers in which I'm bringing from a cumulative amount of sum over years. This is what's going on now. Our homes should be worth more.
Yeah, but Doctor, if I may, Roland, I got a quick question. I understand the devaluation and the undervaluation, right? But what I don't understand is it money that I can't see because I never receive it? So if I live in a $100,000 house and it's really valued at $50,000 and it's redlined, it's got all these other things, how can I miss what I can't measure because it never evaluated up until its proper number?
Well, one thing great about research in this report, now we can see. Before we've known that this is happening.
So how do I go get it back then?
No,
or can I?
You can, and know that once you see what you're worth, then it becomes about communities animating what's going on inside their community to project that their homes should be worth more. And so some of it is on us to say, hey, our homes are worth more. Let's put maybe it might be as simple as a fresh coat of paint. It might be let's start a business in the community.
Right.
But the more we do to show homes are worth more, the greater the likelihood others will invest, and folks in the community will invest in themselves. It's a dire situation, but there's hope behind the numbers.
I have a question as well.
Cleo, Reverend McCoy, then we're going on. Cleo, go ahead with your question.
Does your report explicitly break down cause and effect and what has led to this devaluation of property, so people can understand what the cause looks like and what the elements are, so people can deflect that?
We've long known the cause to be segregation, racial housing covenants, redlining that led to a lack of investment. It's just that,
and this is in the report.
That's in the report. Those prices have reflect some of that. It's just, and the overall number is Black homes, homes in neighborhoods where 50% Black or more, are worth half as much as the same home in white areas. But it's when you control for all of those other things. We also see that the price is lower than what it should be.
Right.
And so, yes, crime matters, education matters, all these things matter. But the concentration of Blackness is lowering the price even further. It's almost as if people are saying, oh, there's 4 times more crime going on in that neighborhood. The homes are worse than what they should be, or what they are. The transportation hubs are worse than what they are. There's this projection of negativity that's lowering values more than what they should be.
So what happens if that Black family moves to a white neighborhood? Does that devaluation follow them?
No, well, we looked at the concentration of Blackness. So as long the whiter the community, the more you're coming close to market value rates.
Right.
And so it's the concentration of Blackness matters.
Reverend McCoy, final question.
Yeah, from a quick one. From a policy standpoint, what can we do to improve that? Because I was participating in a town hall not too long ago in Chicago, and some of the representatives there didn't even understand it, because we looked at the valuation of property there and in the west side and what it was right around the corner, and it was very different.
You know, a lot of the regulations that that occurred under the Obama administration have been eroded, and they were not perfect. What is clear, we do need race-based regulations. And some would argue we deserve reparations based on these numbers.
Yeah.
However, it is clear that there needs to be race-based policies that address the housing market, the real estate agents, appraisals, which are some of the most loose standards, and you get a variability there, and lending. All those things are have so much subjectivity in it that it negatively impacts Black folk all across the board.
All the time.
All right.
Yep.
All right, y'all get the gist of it. Mayor Johnson, put me on that reparations board, because I think this devaluation of property should also be included in that reparations process. And let me just say this, because people and Black people do this too. It's crazy, because the brainwashed have now become the brainwashers. But you hear Black folks talking about the Black community and Black folks is messed up. Let me tell you something. I don't know anybody Black that owns anything that they don't take care of. If we got a car, you see us washing that car, you see us taking care of that car. I'm talking in general. If we own a home, you'll see us doing what we can to take care of that home. Most of the time, these raggedy properties that Black people live in our community, especially here in Chicago, we don't own the buildings. So you got a slumlord who's off somewhere in the beach or not even around, who owns these properties, not taking care of them. We live in them. They fallen down. They look raggedy. The landscaping is bad. There's no trees. Do you know that being around trees in your neighborhood and having a tree canopy in your neighborhood improves your mood and your health? Because simply the fact that trees vibrate, I think it's at 300 megahertz, and the healing megahertz is like 125. Most of us vibrate somewhere between 60 and 80. And just being around trees can help facilitate healing. But there's no trees. They don't maintain. If there are trees, because they're not being maintained, they come and chop them down. So my point is this: stop letting people, even brainwashed Black people, talk negatively to you about Black people, because they either don't know because they're so disconnected, or they know, but they're just repeating what they heard somebody else say. Don't let brainwashed people talk down on you. Most Black people, if they got something, they take care of it. So if you go through our neighborhoods, whether it's in Chicago, Cleveland, Boston, Indianapolis, it doesn't matter. If we own it, we doing something to take care of it. And if we ain't got the money, we doing the best we can. We're not sitting up in stuff that's raggedy, funky, and stinky and falling down around us if we own it. That's just who we are as a people. So don't buy into that. If we own that car, we own that vehicle, more than likely we take care of it. We may go a little bit before we get it washed, or it might get junky every once in a while, but we're going to figure out how to take care of what we own. That's just who we are as a people. We like new, fresh, nice stuff. So don't let people put that over on y'all. All right, so I hope this got your wheels turning on how we need to begin to strategically plan for separation. How, if you are in a municipal area, I just met somebody yesterday who just said they got sworn in on their local government, city council. Listen, study this stuff. We need to know how this kind of thing works. If we are going for reparations, and I think we need to keep that on the table, this constant devaluation of our property needs to be studied, and it needs to be quantized, and it needs to be included in the reparations package. I'm just saying. So Mayor Johnson, put me on the reparations committee. That's all I have to keep saying. And if y'all know him, tell him I could send the sister her resume, send him a sister's resume. I want to be on that committee, because it's not about just, let me just figure out how I can get a little check. It's way bigger than that. There are these systemic processes that have been in place against us. Black people have been working. We've been thriving. We've been striving. For the most part, most of us are not fat, lazy, laid up somewhere, not trying to do anything. Most of us get up and go to work. How in the hell you think we got $1 trillion that we spend a year if we didn't go get it in order to spend it? Now, yeah, we need to do some work around making our dollar last longer in the community. That's why I'm telling you, come to the Conscious Entrepreneur Black Muslim networking event that we're having at the Elijah Muhammad House on June 26th, and learn how to help us extend the amount of time the dollar spends in our Black community. Okay. But for the most part, we working, we getting up. This stereotype that y'all think that just because somebody don't look, we think everybody white got money. We think everybody white got some kind of program. That is just, it's unfair. It not only is it unfair to us, it's unfair to them too. So we getting up, we going to work. We got the money in our hands. So if we spent $1 trillion, we had to have $1 trillion, even though we may have only had it for 6 hours in our community. So we had it for a hot second, but we went and got it from somewhere. So let's try to hold onto it longer than those 6 hours. This is just consumer spending. We have to be more generous. I was just reading something the other day where somebody said that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was one of the most benevolent and generous people that he knew. Now, he wasn't out here just giving money out away willy-nilly, but people who needed it, people that he could support, people who he could have their back. He didn't have a poor psychology when it came to money. He didn't have a bad relationship with money. He understood money as a tool, a liberation tool, so that we can buy real estate. We can support each other's businesses. We can look good and ride nice. It ain't nothing wrong with that. He looked good and rode nice. He was very particular about his appearance. He rode in the nicest Cadillacs. He got that for he had beautiful real estate. We see that. So it's nothing wrong with these things. It's if it's excessive, and that's with anything. Too much of anything is a problem. So we have to decide what's too much, but also how do we support one another? One of the things that I try to do, if you all talk to me about business, I do everything I can. If I can just repost your business when you post it, if I can give $1, $2, if I have to organize a dinner, I find a Black restaurant, because I want to make sure that the spirit of my money that I spend lasts longer than the 6 hours that is currently lasting on average amongst our people in our community. And amongst us so-called conscious people, us so-called Black Muslims, how long is the dollar lasting among us? We complain, but how long is it lasting? All right, family, sign up for the week 4 of Money Psychology webinar. Use the QR code right here. We're going to work on our relationship with money because, like I said, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did not have a bad relationship with money. He understood money as a tool. Period. There's no worshiping of money. There's no freaking out like, let me just try to hoard all of it. Let me make sure whatever. There's none of that. He was very strategic in how he spent his money, how he utilized money that he received from the believers and from the businesses to help and recycle into other businesses and into other Black people that were doing things. But you can't come around us and be a predator. Don't use predatory tactics to sell us stuff. Don't use predatory taxes to deliver goods and services to us. Don't use predatory tactics to sell us something that we don't need or that are not good for us. You better get on here and study. We talk about how to sell. A lot of us only know how to sell because we've either sold drugs, we've been pimping, or we work for somebody who was a predator. Old business models no longer work. We're making a change here today. All right, family, tune in tomorrow. Let me see. What are we talking about tomorrow? Tomorrow is week 5 of this series on separation and strategic planning, doing for self. We're going to be talking about environmental justice. Environmental justice. Okay. So tomorrow morning, right here, 6 a.m. Central Time. And then Saturday, I just want to recap. So gather all your questions. We're going to do a quick recap. We're going to talk. I was going to have, we got a committee, a Black Muslim business committee that we've been putting together. We may all come on the show. I don't know. But we may do that show on Saturday morning. If we don't, then we're going to recap. But bring your questions. Bring your questions. Okay, I see y'all in the chat. I see New Freedom Network. Welcome, welcome. Come out to the event that we're having on the 26th. I see brother Ronald Robinson. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. I see James Camouflage. He's got his water system and filtration information up here in the chat. I see brother Robert 11X Minor. Thank you, and thank you. Good morning, Mom. I see you. Okay. I see a bunch of y'all. Okay, and the rest of y'all being shy. Okay, y'all. Thank you, and thank you. And let me say this one last thing before I go. Stop waiting for everybody else to give you permission to do for self. Stop opening up businesses, waiting for people to support you. Introduce much needed goods and services into the community. Stop asking permission to do good. Stop waiting for group dynamics to tell you, oh yeah, it's okay to sign up for this, or it's okay to come and do that. You got to learn how to be your own person, because in a few days, you're not going to understand where people are coming from. And if you don't have a foundation to stand on, then you're not going to know who to follow and who not to follow. Okay? Study, study, study the principles that have been given to us by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Study. We just had the 5-year anniversary of the Final Call Radio this week. Pop that on. If you got an iPad, a phone, put it in your ears. Listen to some of these lectures, and don't listen to them for entertainment. And don't listen to them to see if they can get you riled up. Listen for the strategy. Listen for the mindset tweak that is needed. All right, y'all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Love you all. Make sure you sign up, support the network. Go to Sajdah Enterprises on Cash App. Drop a few dollars in there. This allows us to keep going. The event on the 26th is a free event. We're just asking for a donation. So in order for us to be able to keep this kind of thing going so that we can help everybody get their vibrations up so that we're matching the money that we want, we need you to support. Freedom ain't free. Okay. So Cash App, Sajdah Enterprises, you see it scrolling across the bottom. The Zelle is going across there. And sign up for week 4 of Money Psychology webinar. We're going to do a mindset tweak on Sunday. And if you missed the past 3 weeks, I'm sorry for you. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to figure out how to put this out here for pay-per-view because we had some powerful stuff that was discussed. Okay, family. Love you all. And support the completion of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad House Museum as well. To become a sponsor, send an email to send an email with sponsorship in the subject line and send it to sajdahhouse@gmail.com. All right, y'all. Peace and blessings.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who in my judgment is the master historian, taught us that of all our studies, history is the most attractive. And it is best qualified to reward the researcher. History is most attractive. Why should history be most attractive? Because history is the recorded time of the human family in its struggle to overcome obstacles. There is no life that is without struggle. The Holy Quran teaches us that man, meaning man and woman, is made to face difficulties. And after difficulty comes ease. But it is history that guides us through difficulty. For if you know how people who had difficulty yesterday got through, and if your difficulty is somewhat similar, then today we also can get through if we follow the guidance of history. This is why Carter G. Woodson and many of our black giants fought for black people to know our history. Because in not knowing our history, we don't have a guide. And without a guide, we are lost. No wonder the Bible